Hello and welcome back to Python programming. In the previous video, we covered if statements. In this video, we will talk about loops, the for loop and the while loop. Loops are an important part of programming. It allows us to repeat a block of code multiple times without having to retype it. In this video, I will start with the for loop first, and then I will move to the while loop. Please go ahead and start your Python programming environment. I started Spyder. I'm going to be using Spyder today and to show you some examples. First, let's define a list. Say A equals a list of 5 elements, 1 through 5. And here's we're going to start the for loop for element or number. Let's say for num and A colon, just like the if statement, enter. And notice the indentation that's required, just like the if statement. And let's say we want to print every element in A, print number, num. Run the code, and it prints every element in this list. If we add a new statement here, let's say print outside of the code. This is not part of a loop. So if you run the statement, you will notice it will print only once at the end. It's not indented, and therefore it will print only once after the for statement is completed. However, if we tab here as part of the loop, so you can see it's printed each time we print the number, we go ahead and print the statement, and so on. Obviously now it is part of the loop. A common practice here is actually to use the range command, the range function. So we could say here if for number in range, let's say 7, print number, run the code, and it prints 0 through 6, as I explained before. Range 7, that starts from 0 all the way to 6. 7 is not included, so basically 7 elements starting at 0. If you wish to start at a different number, let's say if we want to go from 2 to 6, so you can do it this way. 2, 3. If you want to take a step, so every other element, we've done this before, it's going to review, it will print every other element starting from 2, skip element, go to the next, so 4, and then to 6. One thing to note, for example, if you use range 7, that Python will create a list of 7 elements. It will create a physical list and save it in the memory. So if this number is large, that might cause problem with the out of memory. You can use the X range. It will allow you to iterate over the elements, but it's not creating a space in the memory for each of these elements. It will produce the same thing, but again, it's much more efficient as far as the memory is concerned. It will not make a big difference for small numbers like that, but if it's in millions or billions, obviously it's a huge difference. So I would use X range in these cases. Alright, now here's another example. Let's clear everything. Now let's start again with a list. A equals a set with few elements here. And let's say we want to print only the even elements of this set. So we'll start with a for loop for, let's say, x in A. Produce an if statement now. If x mod 2 is not equal to 0, we want to continue. We don't want to print anything, so colon, we'll just say continue. And this is how we use continue within the for loop. Else, we want to print print x. Run the code, and here's what we get. Even numbers are printed out. This is the context how we use continue. Again, the program will read condition. If it's satisfied, it will continue. It goes back to the for loop and reiterate, continue the iteration. And if it's false, go to the else statement, print the even number, and then go back to the next element. Another command we can use with the for loop is the break, which is similar to the continue, except in this case it will stop the for loop. Let's say if you hit the number 12, then break, just as an example. So we will say if x is equal 12, else print x. Let's run the code and see what we get. So we printed 1, 4, 5, 8, 9. As soon as it hit the value of 12, it stopped the loop. I just want to mention here that the else statement here is redundant, so you can do it without the else statement. So we could do here, and you will get the same output. So if x is not 12, it's going to the next line, which is print x. So in here, and you can see we'll get the exact same output. And the same is true for the previous example. Now we will turn to the while loop, which works pretty much the same as the for loop, and it can be applied in a very similar manner and to kind of handle the same situations as the for loop does. Let's first clean everything here. Alright, so let's start by defining variable c. So c equals 0, and start a while statement here. While c is less than 8, notice the indentation just like the for and the if statements. Let's say print c, and let's run this command. I'm actually doing it for a reason. Notice this is an infinite loop, it will never stop. If c is 0, you're printing c, it's going to keep looping and printing 0 over and over and over. I just wanted to bring this for educational purposes. If you happen to run into this, you can hit Control C to break the program, interrupt it, clear. So we want to make sure to terminate the program. So let's say c equals c plus 1, and run the code. It prints all the numbers until we hit c less than 7, false. It's going to exit the loop. One thing I wanted to say here, there's a shortcut in Python for writing c equals c plus 1. You can just say plus equal, and that will do exactly the same thing. Let's adjust the code a little bit, and let's say you want to add all the numbers less than 8, so 1 plus 2 plus all the way to 7. So we're going to define total equals 0, and then let's say here, so total equals total plus c. We don't need this anymore, and we want to print the total at the end here. Run and provide us with the total of adding the numbers 1 through 7. We can use the continue and break commands within the while loop, just as we did with the for. Let's say we want to add the numbers, but we don't want to exceed, we don't want to exceed 20. As soon as it exceeds 20, we want to break, or we're going to kind of exit the while loop. So let's add here an if statement. If total is greater than 20, break. So as soon as the total exceeds 20, exit and print that amount. So it will be over 20, but as soon as it hits over 20, stop. So let's see, run the code. As soon as it hit 21, you can see it did break. Now let's say we want to adjust the statement to add all the numbers less than 8 and avoid the odd numbers, so just adding the even numbers. So we need to do some adjustments here. The test here will be on the c value. If c mod 2 is not equal to 0, then we want to continue, right? So this way it will skip all the odd numbers. If it's say c equal 1, odd number, it will continue, go to the next c. But notice it will skip this part, so the counter will not be accounted for. So we need to include that statement here, c plus equal 1. So it goes to the next step, next c value, and then go to the while. And then next value is 2. It's going to come here, add the next c value. Next value is 3. It's going to go here. It will add 1 to the c and then continue to the while loop, and so on and so forth. Let's run the code now. And the sum is 12, which is 2 plus 4 plus 6. That's 12. Obviously 7 is odd and 8 is not included, so the sum is 12. This is the end of our lesson for today. Thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying coding in Python, and see you next time.